Forgot to shave. Okay. I don't like talking to people in any capacity, whether it's face-to-face, texting, video calls, nothing. And it's not because I don't like people or because I think there's something wrong with everybody else on this planet. No. People are great. I love people. I literally sit here and just endlessly scroll through Reddit and YouTube just to watch how amazing people are in so many different capacities. I mean, here's a video of a guy playing the drums while juggling. I mean, what? Is that not the most incredible thing you've ever seen? Like, how do you even have the idea to do that and then go on and figure out how to execute it? Like, how? But anyway, moving on. It doesn't even need to be anything that complex. I literally just spent the last week watching Hot Ones interviews just so I could watch genuine human interactions between people. If that isn't the saddest thing you've heard this month, then just keep watching because it's about to get a whole lot sadder. Quick side note though, while we're on the topic of Hot Ones, John Boyega might be the sauciest human being on this planet. I mean, this dude is just the physical embodiment of charisma. But anyway, my point is just that I love people. Even just watching people authentically communicate with each other brings me genuine joy and happiness. So my dislike for talking to people doesn't stem from this feeling of disdain for humanity. No. The reason I don't like talking to people is because I'm bad at talking to people. And since I'm bad at it, I do my absolute best to avoid doing it. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I feel like avoidance is a pretty natural response to being bad at something, right? Like, I don't sing because I'm basically tone deaf. I don't play hockey or football because if John Boyega is the physical embodiment of charisma, then I am the physical embodiment of weakness. And I don't participate in literally 99% of other human activity because I'm just bad at those things. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that at least to some degree, we avoid doing the things that we're bad at. I think the one exception to this idea happens when the thing that we're bad at is also something that we love to do. If you genuinely love the activity, then I think that the fact that you're bad at it won't stop you from doing it. I think this is where that 10,000 hours rule comes into play. You know that rule that basically says you gain mastery of a subject after 10,000 hours of practicing and performing that activity? And who's gonna put that amount of time into something that they don't genuinely enjoy doing? So for example, I am in no way, shape, or form a good editor, but I genuinely enjoy making these videos, so I'm willing to be bad at it so that one day I can hopefully get better. And honestly, even if I don't get better, I still think I'm going to keep editing because again, I genuinely enjoy the process. So even though I'm bad at this, I don't avoid it because I actually love to edit videos. But here's the thing. I think that repeated failure in an activity can start to taint your love of that activity. If you fail enough at the thing that you love, even if you're willing to be bad at it, I think it'll start to affect your feelings towards that activity. And I think that's what's happened to me with social interaction. I don't think I can earnestly say that I don't love talking to people. So I immediately have to take back the first sentence that I uttered in this video. I mean, I literally just told you about how watching videos of authentic human interaction brings me genuine happiness. So yeah, I think I'd say that even though I would love to be able to naturally interact with people, I'm just not able to. And so I avoid doing it because it brings me pain to continuously fail at it. It really does start to weigh on you. The text messages with no response, the confused look in people's eyes when you speak, the dead silence after you come out of your shell and make a joke. These things bring you to the point of not even wanting to try, especially after you've made a concerted effort for years and haven't really seen much improvement. I spent 19 years putting in that 10,000 hours. And even though I would never say that I achieved mastery in the subject of social interaction, I was at least at a place where most social situations wouldn't give me extreme anxiety like they do now. But then I dropped out of college and the shame that I carried from that experience pushed me further and further away from people. And so that 10,000 hours began to mean less and less because I wasn't keeping up and hitting those reps. And that's the thing with any skill. We all acknowledge that social aptitude is a skill, one that can be learned and honed through increased social interaction. But the other side of that is, just like any other skill, if it isn't practiced and maintained, it will start to deteriorate. And so despite 10,000 hours of study in this subject, I spent at least another 10,000 moving in the complete opposite direction. And in the process, accidentally honing my skills on how to avoid social interaction. And so now that I'm trying to reacclimate myself to being around people, there are 10,000 hours of progress in the wrong direction standing in my way. And that progress continues to isolate me despite my wishes. It almost literally puts up a barrier between myself and those that I try to interact with. I can't remember the last time I had a conversation with someone where I wasn't simultaneously thinking about how the conversation was going. I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that I haven't felt that way in over a decade. Whereas before I dropped out, I don't think I ever concerned myself with how the conversation was going. It just wasn't a thought that crossed my mind. And the result of this is that now I quite literally just can't communicate with people how I would like to. If I'm even lucky enough to generate a thought in response to something someone has said, the path that that thought takes from my mind to my mouth is so convoluted and filled with twists and turns that by the time it comes out in word form, it doesn't even resemble that original thought. The other day, my mom came down and asked me what I was eating. I thought it was obvious what I was eating, so I jokingly remarked, "What does it look like I'm eating?" But when I said it, nobody laughed. And I realized that even though in my head I was joking, my intonations and inflections were so off that what came out was completely flat, and I ended up just sounding like a complete jerk to my mom. Sorry, Mom. And some version of this happens literally every day in every interaction that I have with people. That inability to actually articulate what's going on in my head. And again, that's if I'm even lucky enough to have a thought in response. Most of the time, my mind will literally go blank and we'll just stand there looking at each other like... And this doesn't just happen in face-to-face communication. Texting is probably my worst nightmare. Having my phone buzz actually invokes a feeling of dread in me now. Most of the time, I'm actually hoping that it's a scam call so that I don't have to interact. Because it's likely just gonna end with me saying the wrong thing and getting left on red again. And I don't wanna have to feel that feeling. Things are so warped in my head now that I legitimately get angry when people reach out to me. Because I've seen how these conversations end too many times to even entertain the idea that we're going to be able to have any kind of prolonged interaction. And so I get angry at them for essentially forcing me to fail. I mean, how messed up is that? Getting angry at someone for checking up on you. I mean, I won't use the H word because my mom doesn't like it, but I do not like myself for feeling this way. But it's the truth of the situation. Over the past 3 weeks, I've had several close friends and family members try to start conversations with me, and literally all of them ended with me getting left on red. All of them. If it was one person, I could say, okay, maybe that person has other things going on. But if it's all of them, no, I'm sorry. Clearly I'm doing something wrong here. It's like that saying, if you go somewhere in the morning and you meet a jerk, then you just met a jerk. But if everyone you meet that day is a jerk, then you need to check yourself and reassess how you're interacting with people. And after 10 years of having interactions like this, both digitally and in real life, I think it's safe to say that I am 100% the problem. But the people that are close to me will always try to reassure me and tell me that I'm doing just fine, or that I'm not being weird or awkward, and that I just need to get out of my head. And I can't really express just how much that means to me. I mean, they are genuinely trying to create an optimal scenario for me to grow by creating a space where I can feel free to make mistakes and not get judged for it. That is so much more than I am personally capable of doing for anyone, and here they are doing that for me. I really can't express just how noble I find that to be, and I truly aspire to be like them in this capacity. Unfortunately though, the reality is that despite their attempts, it's impossible to just get out of my head. The reality is that I've seen how they interact with other people. I've seen how they're not even conscious of the fact that they're involved in a conversation. They're just lost in the flow of the interaction. It's almost instinctual. You say this, I say that, you go this way, I go that way. And they just keep building off of each other. There's a flow to it, a call and response type of dynamic. There's a rhythm in the conversation that all of those involved contribute to creating, I mean, it really is beautiful, and I see how much they enjoy these types of interactions. And then I can't help but compare that kind of interaction to what happens when we interact. How everything I say almost has to be computed or processed because it doesn't match the flow of the conversation. And so the rhythm is lost, or better yet, never even developed. How the call and response dynamic is never established, so our conversations don't build off of each other. And we lose the instinctual feel of it, bringing it down to the conscious level where you actually have to exert some type of effort to make sense of what I'm saying. All of this leading to the overall result that having a conversation with me is actually work for them. It isn't instinctual and therefore refreshing, effortless, and joyful. It requires effort to decipher what I'm even trying to say because so many times I'm not even entirely sure of what I'm trying to say. And so they have to do the work to add the rhythm and the flow so that something can be gained from even having a conversation with me in the first place. And sure, in the end, a conversation was had, and usually one that was at least a little bit enjoyable. But compared to the types of conversations that they are capable of having, conversations with me just never reach those heights. And I see that. I mean, when we hang out, I see my friends receive texts all the time, and they respond immediately with glee and giddiness. But when I text them, it takes them weeks to respond, and I don't blame them for that. So even though I truly can't articulate just how remarkably empathetic the people that are close to me are in trying to provide a safe space for me to grow by dismissing my social ineptitude, the reality unfortunately betrays their dismissal. I am socially inept. That is simply the truth of the situation. And the result of this ineptitude is that I just don't want to talk to people anymore. I am so tired of failing. I really am. The failures, they just keep adding up. And the more they do, the more they taint my love of being around people. So I prefer to be alone because at least that way I don't have to keep making a fool of myself. And now, because of my preference, people constantly say that I'm an introvert. And having that reputation has really made me think about what it actually means to be an introvert. And so before I go on, let me just say that this next bit is going to be based on absolutely nothing except my own personal experience. So take what I'm about to say with the world's largest grain of salt. But yeah, so I think the idea that introverted people would genuinely prefer to be alone rather than in groups is largely inaccurate. Science has pretty definitively concluded that human beings are inherently social creatures, like most animals on this planet. I think if you take a quote-unquote introvert who's super into, I don't know, axe throwing and stick them in a community of other axe throwing enthusiasts, then I highly doubt that person is going to spend the majority of their time by themselves. They'll probably be organizing parties, events, gatherings, probably even up there giving speeches about axe throwing because that's what they're comfortable with. So basically, I'm just saying that if you get people in their comfort zones, then they stop being introverted and they will actually go out and seek social interaction. I think extroverts are just people who don't need those shared interests to feel comfortable around people. But the idea that extroverts like being around people and introverts like being alone is, in my opinion, an oversimplistic take on the issue. But again, that's just my opinion. I guess I'm just trying to say that I don't really see myself as that definition of an introvert, even though that's how people classify me because I spend a lot of time on my own. I think of myself as more of a really bad extrovert, or a broken extrovert. That's the one. Again, I can't really stand by what I initially said about not liking to talk to people. I do. I actually love talking to people. But I think it's more accurate to say that because I'm bad at it, which again is only the case because of my own poor decisions, I continuously fail at talking to people, and that failure has left me fearful of social interaction. And so I do my best to avoid it. People scare me. Even though I love them, I can't interact with them. And that really sucks, man. And even though I'm conscious of this and conscious of the whole 10,000 hours rule, and that I have to be bad at this for a while before I get to a comfortable place, the failures still hurt, like, a lot. So much so that they genuinely make me want to quit interacting with people. But unfortunately for me, social interaction isn't really something I can opt out of, like singing or playing hockey. By virtue of the fact that I am a human being living on this planet, I will have to interact with other people. And that honestly terrifies me because it means that I'm just gonna have to keep failing. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this topic. I am socially inept, and if I don't want to be anymore, I'm just gonna have to keep trying to fail less and less, no matter how much it hurts. So I guess I have that to look forward to. I do have this memory from a few months ago where I made my mom and my sister almost cry laughing. I can't remember what I did or said, but remembering how I felt in that moment makes me feel pretty okay, I guess. I told you this video was gonna get real sad, but that's enough of that. Like I said, I don't have much else to say, so I'm just gonna end it right here. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with it. I know I've said before that I wanted to move on to more important topics that don't concern my deteriorating emotional state, but I really needed to get this off my chest. So thank you again for listening. But as always, I truly, truly wish you the best going forward. I hope your social interactions are significantly more fulfilling than mine. But yeah, thanks again for listening. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. And be easy.
I promise I'ma move out this house. I promise I'ma make things